to me, it was meaningful because that's what we want to help people do, is love living where they are right now. Like, you don't have to have $1 million to buy a mansion to love where you're at in your life right now, whether it's your starter home or your second home or your forever home. And that's really what we want to do. And I think that was initially the angle that we had wanted for our Instagram account, was showing people how we lived. We bought these super dated houses that didn't have basically anything that we liked in them.
Yeah.
And showing people how you can transform it into something that you like, but here and now, not later in the most amazing house you could ever buy, but how to love where you live now.
Hey everybody, this is Ben with the Unexpected Podcast, and I'm here this morning with Aubrey and Laura from Love Living Here. I'm super excited to have them on the Unexpected Podcast. Before we get too deep, let's first of all say thank you to the sponsor, Red Barn Home Furnishings, which is me. And you can find Red Barn Home Furnishings at red_barn_home on Instagram. I did it right this time. I'm also on YouTube. If you're listening to it, it's probably on YouTube because I can't figure out my Spotify account. And you can also find me on Facebook and the website. By the time this comes out, the new website probably will be live. That is e-commerce ready. You can go on there and purchase any of the stock items that I make. If you want a custom order, you can contact me for custom orders as well. Aubrey and Laura, who wants to answer this? How do they find you?
They can find us at Love Living Here on Instagram, TikTok, and our website is also lovelivinghereco.com.
Okay, cool. Our first TikTokers on the podcast.
We don't actually really like TikTok.
Well, neither do I. So
I wouldn't say that's our main social channel by any means.
Visit us on Instagram.
Instagram's where you're most active.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like to give everybody kind of the opportunity to explain what they do, what their business is, like you said, how people find you, if they're interested in what you guys do. So what exactly does Love Living Here provide as a service?
Okay, so let's give like a little background first before we get into what we actually do.
Perfect.
So it started with Laura and I. By the way, we're two friends from college. We met in college, and we met two guys at college that also are from Ohio, live in the same area, and then we ended up moving back to the same area. So that's how this all kind of came to be. We're super close in proximity. Mm-hmm. So we decided in 2020, we're like, let's throw an Instagram account together. We both live in they're our second homes. They're kind of dated colonials. We both have an interest in DIY. We always have loved like home decor, interior design. And we're like, let's just put an account together. It's 2020, like nothing is happening in the world. We're not able to go anywhere. We're like, let's just go for this. So we created our account, and basically it was just us documenting things we were doing in our own homes.
Yeah.
And, nothing fancy. Like, we were just trying to put our content out there and just kind of show the world what we were doing in our own homes, and just trying to like gather around with the community of other DIYers and other people that were doing the same things as us. So then we had a follower reach out to us probably, what do you say, like 6 months after we started our account?
Yeah, pretty
so
shortly.
Our account hadn't been, out for that long, and we had someone reach out and say, hey, like, I love what you're doing, but do you offer services? Like, do you offer interior design services? Is this something you could come and do to my house? So I think we thought about it for like 0.5 seconds, and we were like, we can certainly do that. And that's how Love Living Here Design Company was born, from a follower just simply asking, hey, can you come and help at my house?
That's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Like, for sure.
So I'm an attorney, and so it was actually a cool opportunity for me to actually do what I do for my clients in my law practice, which is help them start a business.
Yeah.
So, we went through all the, the legal, things that you need to do to actually start a business. And yeah, that's how we got started with our one client, and we set everything up to basically be able to provide services to anybody who asked us, and it just sort of snowballed over time from there.
Very cool. That's super organic growth. Like, you're just doing what you like doing, and then somebody's like, hey, I love what you do it for me. That's super wild. It's also funny to me that the first thing you did was go through all the like setting up a business and everything, because that's what Alyssa did. She's an accountant. She went through, set everything up, and then started doing stuff. Where I was the flip side. I'm like a year deep into it. I'm like, I probably ought to get insurance. Maybe I should actually get an LLC so I don't get sued.
Well, and that's where like Aubrey and I work so well together, not only from just a design aspect for our clients, because we bring like a little bit of a different kind of design angle to our clients, but also just like how we operate in our business and everything. It's been super organic. We just kind of, like sometimes she'll take the lead for a client and I'm kind of, supporting that and everything, or we just kind of fill in for each other like where we need to, and it works out really well.
I got you. So, and let's see if I got this right. You both kind of have your own style that matches up well with each other, but if you have one particular client that meshes better with one style versus the other, that person takes the lead. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. It's probably more like one of us, just because, we both, Aubrey's a real estate agent, by day, and I'm an attorney by day. And then, we also have kids and everything like that. So it's nice because we sort of like just organically just like happens when we tag team a client that maybe one person is available to. Like recently, Aubrey went up to visit a client that we have in Cleveland, so she was kind of more involved in that. And then I've been like really involved with one of our other clients just because I, happen to respond to some emails, but we always kind of come together at the quote end of the day, and go over what's happening with all of our clients. But yeah, it's just been, we just kind of tag team things sort of as they happen.
Okay. That's cool. So you said college. You met your husbands at college, but you knew each other beforehand. Is that right?
Yeah, so we met each other. Laura and I met each other at college. And then
what college?
We went to Grove City College. And
where's Grove City College?
So it's in a small town called Grove City, Pennsylvania.
Oh, Grove City, Pennsylvania. Okay.
Yes, Grove City, Pennsylvania. What is it, 45 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. It's a very small little town, small college. And we met we ran track together, and we met on the track team. And then, we both ended up marrying guys from there who just happened to be from this local Ohio area. So it was kind of cool how we ended up. I mean, I think it's pretty rare that you end up living and starting your families close by to a college friend.
Yeah, Aubrey and I are both Pennsylvania gals, so we're not originally from Ohio.
Yeah. What events did you run or participate?
Taking us back then.
Yeah.
Okay, so I ran the 800.
Okay.
I'm not saying I was like awesome at the 800, but I ran the 800.
You ran the 800 at the collegiate level?
1500.
And we would actually run relays together. We would run the 4x8
So you're both
relay.
long distance?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were mid to long distance in track,
Yeah, my stepson ran the 200.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. That's a sprinter.
West Virginia Wesleyan for 2 years. Yeah. So, but the 800 and 1500, that's long distance to me. I think my maximum is maybe 50 yards. So
nice.
But that's cool. So the 800, the 800 and 1500, you got to have a lot of internal fortitude to push through those long distances. So that, have you seen through the course of the business where that desire to push through those long distances has kind of helped you pushing through difficult moments in the business? You're both shaking your heads, yes.
Trying to think of an example.
I would say so for sure. And I would say more on a client level.
Yeah.
Like I think we've had some clients that, okay, I'll say our biggest struggle and challenge with clients is just them not relinquishing all their trust to us. And I'll expand on that. It sounds bad, but I just mean it in a way that a lot of people want to still have control over their designs, which I totally get. It's their home. It's the most personal thing that they have. But I feel like we can't work as well when we don't have their full trust and full control because we can't really put our designs together as best as we know they can be.
Yeah.
So I think we've had a couple clients where it's been hard because we know how good something can be, but we just don't feel like we have their complete go-ahead. And that's been a little bit challenging because it's frustrating when we see the potential and we see what we could do, but we just don't feel like we have that level of like they're completely trusting us and allowing us to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
So I think in those situations, it's been like, okay, this isn't exactly our dream situation of being able to present, a design to a client and be like, hey, let's move forward with this. We're going to have to like make some tweaks and we're going to have to work with them. And, we're going to have to kind of push through these like road bumps we keep coming up to. So I think in that regard, that's been like one of the biggest challenges and something that in our business that we've time after time and will still continue with certain clients like, okay, there's just not quite that level of where we need to be. So let's work on this together as a partnership and kind of like push through that.
Yeah. And a lot of times clients come to us and they have an idea of what they want. And it's usually actually like a feeling, right? Like I don't want to be mad every morning when I wake up and come down to my kitchen and it looks like this.
Yeah.
I just want to love it. And to me, home really is a feeling. Like the finishes and paint colors and everything that you pick for your home evokes a certain feeling about it. And that's really what we're helping clients try to achieve. But a lot of what we're trying to do that can, I guess, feel like we're running the 800, is we're really trying to listen to the client and understand what they want and then put a design together that makes sense for them, right? And a lot of times it isn't just that straightforward because we'll send them something and maybe it's not exactly what they were thinking, or they, maybe it caused them to think more about what they actually wanted. So we've got to make a lot of tweaks to fit into what they think they want or their budget or whatever. So it's definitely a process working with our clients to try and come to exactly what they need, like that's within their budget that makes them feel good about their space.
I got you. Yeah. That makes sense because you're going through just the levels of initially they have that idea or they have something they saw on Pinterest or whatever they come with, or it's in a magazine or they saw it here or some other store, and then working through those different levels of, all right, that's what you want. What's your budget? Let's work through these different things. Sometimes you have to have those hard conversations. Well, this isn't in the budget. What are we going to lose? Right. That happens sometimes.
Yeah, or trying to help them focus on the things that we think would make the most difference or basically make them the happiest with the space. So spending the dollars in the right areas, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it requires compromises, right? As I'm sure you know. And so it's also just trying to help clients grasp that and come to terms with what compromises they could live with.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had to do that, but it was with my toughest client was my wife.
I was going to say.
Yeah, was when we built the house last year was like, this is what she wanted and this is what we could afford and where did we have to make compromises? Just had that conversation last night. We put in these beautiful floors and she wants to put an area rug in and it just drives me crazy.
We are very pro area rug.
Yeah.
I know everybody loves area rugs, but it's just like, man, I spent so much money on this floor. And I put in so many hours putting it in myself that I don't want to cover it up. I know eventually we're going to get an area rug. It's just I'm going to fight it as long as I can.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and that's where it's, working your way through those different things with a client can be challenging for sure, especially if there's a big gap between what they want and what their budget is. So that's always a tough one. When you were, just getting into it, you had that client reach out, be like, "Hey, could you do something?" Did you actually do work with that particular client, and what was it?
Yeah, we did. We initially started with their master bedroom.
Okay.
Which we have some great memories from that because that was our very first install, and trying to figure out how to put a 9x13 rug under a king bed was a little challenging. But I want to say we've matured since then, and we've kind of figured out more of our protocol at this point. But that was our first install, and it was awesome. We had so much fun. It was kind of addicting, honestly, because we had so much fun sourcing the items. We had so much fun installing, and then they did have us come back out. We did their son's bedroom as well. We did a few other miscellaneous parts of the home, but yeah, it always hold a special place in our hearts because truly that was our very first client and our first install job.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was a good first foray into it and kind of like confirmation such that like this is a great opportunity for us, and we had so much fun, and also the client loved it.
Yeah.
Their feedback was like, "Oh my gosh, we thought we were going to have to move because we didn't like how our bedroom felt, and you guys made it basically look like something out of a magazine." And so it was good confirmation for us that, wow, that was fun, and this is so cool, and the potential is really amazing here. But at the same time, it was also awesome because you could really see how everything was just taking one step at a time. We didn't go into it thinking that we were just going to have this whole design business, right? We went into it thinking we were just going to share our own home projects. And then, even our Instagram account has kind of evolved into more than what we originally thought. So it's cool to look back as a small business owner and just see how just taking small steps at a time can really lead you to some amazing things.
Yeah. Because, that's a misconception is what I would say, where you see these people, they're like, there's no better way to do it than to just, go at it all the way or jump in the deep end of the pool or, all in or whatever all those different cliches. In my personal opinion, those people that look at their business that way, who just like go way too far, too fast, they're the ones that are failing every time because they're trying to take on too much stuff. It's got to be incremental growth. It has to be. Yeah. Especially when you're figuring out how to deal with customers in the most intimate way. You're in their home. You're changing where they live every day, especially a bedroom. That's a very, a lot of people, that's their sanctuary. And to have that fingerprint on that area of their home, you definitely have to kind of work your way through that and slowly grow. Because it's just, I know multiple people who are just like, one day they just quit their job and had this crazy idea. I know one person who's doing well that way, but I know like 10 who are no longer doing what they set out to do because they're just like, hey, I'm going to do this, and I'm, let's go at it all the way, and I'm going to quit my full-time job and put everything on this one thing working out that I really don't know what I'm doing yet. And because I did it the same way you did it, where it's slow incremental growth. I worked for FedEx I started doing the furniture in 2013 when we were building the house, and then in Fremont, and then really went full time. I think it was I always forget the dates, 2017.
Oh, okay.
So I took a few years to really work my way through all that stuff. And that's the right way to do it, I think, for sure. Because you're putting way too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
We've had and you can elaborate on this, Aubrey, but we've had so much to learn too.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You don't know what you don't know, right? And the one thing we knew when we actually took about 6 months from having the idea until we actually started our Instagram account, because we knew that if we were going to do it, we were going to start small, but we wanted to start it right.
Yeah.
So we knew that in that space, one, your photos have to look really great. And I look back and cringe at some of our early photos because they weren't, but we took 6 months to figure out what our name was going to be. We actually built a website before we even started and had it launched at the same time we started our Instagram account. And we actually learned how to use a DSLR to take nice interior photos. And we spent a lot of time on the front end making sure that what we were doing was going to be worthwhile when we first started it. But it was small, and then we learned so much, but we were able to kind of evolve from there as we learned.
Yeah. All that prep work to make sure it's done right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started out a lot of pre-work. You had that initial customer. On average, how many customers are y'all working with a month?
It's hard to quantify in like a month span because we have some clients. We have a client that we've been working with for, I'd say, about 2.5 years now.
Oh, wow.
They're about to start renovation for their kitchen, a whole kitchen gut job. And there's a lot of prep work that goes into that. So we've been working with them for several years at this point.
Wow.
But then we have other clients that we take on that are just looking for maybe a refresh in their first floor of their home.
Okay.
Where we can source items for them, shoot them some design boards, and get that over to them within about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then, if they're happy with that and we don't have any further dialogue, then we're done with that client. So we have some long-term clients. We have some of the shorter-term clients too. So it really just depends on kind of what the need is with the
varies.
client.
Okay.
But
Like right now we have 3, I would say, active renovation clients. Like the one we've been working with for a while, another one that we've kind of been steadily sort of going room by room with, and then a brand new client that we're working with that's kind of really in the concept stage for what she wants to do to the kitchen, and then that, depending on their budget and everything, might spill over to the rest of the first floor.
Okay.
But so we have 3 active clients now, but really we do have a component of taking virtual clients. So we'll do clients in different states or even other parts of like Ohio. We've even had a client in Canada before from our Instagram. And we'll basically with that, we'll help them select finishes like tile, flooring, paint, etc. And then we basically, ship them designs and packets and help them select finishes. And then, they'll proceed from there either by themselves or with their own contractor. So we have a contingent of virtual clients, but those kind of come and go more easy. Those are more short term. And then we have like our longer term, which are usually like our in-person clients.
Yeah. Huh. That's pretty, so you got a nice wide range.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's great. Where in Canada was that?
It was it Vancouver?
I was thinking it was Vancouver. Yeah.
Vancouver's supposed to be really pretty.
Yeah.
I wish we could have flown in for an
Yeah.
install there.
Yeah.
Wasn't needed, but that would have been awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually just, by the time this comes out, it'll probably be public knowledge. I just landed a customer in Montreal.
Oh, nice.
And have you ever seen the show Anne with an E on Netflix? It's Anna Green Gables
yes.
remake.
I've heard of it. Yes, I love Anna Green Gables.
The guy that plays Jerry on that reached out to me last week, and we're doing I'm making him a desk and a door, and we're delivering it in person.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's got like 700,000 followers or something like that. And
nice.
Yeah.
So how did he find you?
The algorithm on Instagram, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what he told me.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm pretty stoked about it. It should be a nice exposure, but it was just, that's the funny thing. We're here in the same area. We're in the middle of Ohio, and you getting people nationally or internationally reaching out to you. It's kind of a surreal experience, you know? Like for a little bit until I talked to the kid on the phone. I shouldn't say kid. Until I talked to the man on the phone. Edit that part out, okay? Until I talked to him on the phone, I thought I was like getting catfished,
like
scammed,
or something.
Yeah. But he's got a verified account and all that stuff. I'm like, this isn't happening. This isn't real. Like, it's wild. But yeah, he said he likes what I do, and so I don't know. It should be cool. It should be cool. Now I got to scramble to get my passport.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
well, that's another thing I love about what Instagram has done for us is we've met people that we never would have met just living where we live. Like literally people that we talk to almost every day on Instagram, and people that we become really good friends with. And even yesterday I was chatting on Instagram. We happen to both be on our accounts at the same time, but it was a designer who's been a friend of ours up in the Boston area. And she had posted something about trying to pick out wallpaper, and I had responded to something that she posted and said like, oh my gosh, I love that vanity. I was going to order that. What do you think about it? And she was like, oh my gosh, I love it. And then she was asking me what I thought about the wallpaper. And so just being able to have that kind of connection with other people that we literally never would have known her or the other people that we know. There would have been no way to know them and become like actually friends with them.
It's pretty wild. That's for sure. I've obviously had interactions and met people that no way I ever would have met them in person. Same way. It's really wild. And I still have yet to impress my kids with the people that I've met on there. But although that championship ring that we cast in the epoxy last weekend, that got my youngest son was pretty jacked up about it. He was walking around the house with the Browns championship ring on for like 4 hours. But anyways, yeah. So let's kind of go back to, you had your initial client, went really well. It was their master bedroom, and then their son's bedroom eventually. Once you did that, was there a moment within there, or did you already have the moment before that where you were like, we're sharing our videos of our own home renovations, because that's kind of how it started, right? And now we have this person wanting to do it. Let's really put the pressure on and try and get more and more people. Was there a moment like that, or did it just kind of happen where you kept having more people kind of roll in?
I think it just continued to happen organically. I don't think there ever was a time where we're like, all right, let's market the heck out of ourselves. Yeah. Let's get cards out. I think it honestly was very organic. Obviously, we've done some events with Hartville Hardware that have led to some exposure, and just meeting the shoppers who have wanted help with their homes. That's been awesome. But really, I want to say Instagram has been the biggest driver behind our growth. It's just wild how we are able to connect with these people who we really would have no other way of knowing them. And I would say that's probably the biggest driving factor behind our growth.
After we worked with that first client, Easter weekend of that year, we had a video go viral on Instagram, and that's how we got to our first 10,000 followers on Instagram. And that did something for our business and our exposure, and definitely propelled our experience on Instagram, interacting with more people who would be buyers of our services. And then we got connected with Hartville Hardware after that. And that's when we started our partnership with Hartville Hardware. And that helped as well. So it was kind of like all these little things that just kind of fell into place after we had that initial client.
I got you. That's
and
cool.
some referrals too. We had a client that then referred us to friends of theirs, which is awesome. We love that because we've really lucked out with awesome clients and people that we just really enjoy being with. And then when they trust us enough to refer them to friends, it's just really cool when that works out.
That's awesome. Good. So, you had your first video that went viral Easter weekend, you said. What was that video? What were you guys doing?
It was a video of me color blocking my son's room. And the video was really about how to get a crisp paint line. And I was showing the steps to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was so crazy over Easter weekend. We were just like watching the views tabulate and get closer and closer to 1 million. And at the same time, our follower count was like skyrocketing. And then also right after that, we did the what's called on Instagram in the DIY community, the 1 room challenge, where a couple times a year, this one account who started it gets everybody together and you kind of just like share progress on what you're doing for like one specific room. And I did that, and that definitely, because I was sort of part of that movement for the 1 room challenge, that also helped with exposure at the same time.
Okay. That's cool. Because that's the one question that as somebody who's trying to build an Instagram account or trying to build, I'm told it's easier to do on TikTok, or trying to build a social media presence in general, the number one question is always, how'd you get a video to go? How'd you get what were the hashtags you used, or what did you do to make it go? And to a person, every single person that I've asked about it, everybody's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the answer is the same for me too, because I've had a few go crazy now as well. And literally you're sitting there, you do a regular video and you're just doing what you normally do. You're throwing out there and all of a sudden, bam, it's just like out of control and you have no idea what you did. And it's cool, but it's also scary at the same time because you're like, there's got to be some sort of like magic formula to this. I didn't just like do it on accident. But anyways, that's cool that was the first one that went crazy. You've done a lot of projects to this point. On that first one, or even the projects back at your house, was there anything that, like a process that you did that you look back now and you're like, man, I feel so silly doing that? Because I know that, like, I have jobs. I look back at my original ones. I'm like, that thing's a piece of crap. I have my original table in the house that I made for my son. And it's still together, even though I put it together so, like, rudimentary, like it was, like, elementary level carpentry. But I look at it and it reminds me every once in a while where I came from and to keep pushing. Do you have something like that from that first one or when you were first doing renovations, be like, man, I gotta redo that because that's embarrassing to look at every day?
Yep, gonna renovate the powder room, which was like one of our very, very, very first projects ever in our house, with some, vertical or with some horizontal shiplap that, Joanna Gaines type farmhouse style that was really popular at that time on one wall, and we actually had a leak in that bathroom, so we're gonna renovate it. But yeah, I do sometimes I think, wow, my style has evolved so much since that time. But also, like you said, it's a really good reminder of where you started.
Yeah. Not to get too big for your britches, as they say.
Yeah.
That's where kids are great, though. They remind you that every day. Every day I'll be like, yeah, this is what happened today. And the 11-year-old's like, whatever, Dad. We used to do that. I feel bad now because we used to do that to my mom. My mom's a published artist. She does all sorts of stuff. And people would be like, your mom's so talented. And we're like, whatever. She's that craps all over the house. Like, I'd look at that. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, kids are good for that too. How about, Aubrey, how about you? Is there like anything or any moment, or not moment necessarily, but project that you look back at now and be like, man, I've really come a long way since then?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for personally in my home, like tons of projects that I thought were like the thing at the time. And I look back, I'm like, what was I thinking? But I think that's just part of, just kind of learning your personal style and what you like and what makes you feel a certain way. There are a lot of things that making me feel not great at this point that I would like to redo. But I think to hone it more into our business, I think to kind of go back to like our very first client, there were processes that were not in place that we just, we went into our first, day on the field of an install and we just didn't know exactly what we were doing. We didn't necessarily have the right tools, the right things with us to make it a successful install. So I think as we've like gone through time and we've had more clients and had more installs, we have our checklist. Like, this is what we're bringing. This is a non-negotiable. We're going to need this. Even just allotting our time. I remember one of our first clients, we were at their house for like 12 plus hours. I was like 7 months pregnant. Like it was crazy. It just was not a good use of time. And I feel like we were very much at that point, just like, we got to get this done. This is our client. We got to like prove to them we can do this, when we really should have stepped back and been like, okay, let's plan our time better. Let's, allot time for this so that we can work on this another day. I think we just have grown and matured in just knowing, okay, what do we need for install days? How much time do we need for it? And I think I kind of cringe looking back, at those first couple clients that we had. But, it's all good. We're moving forward, and I think we're better because of that, and we have better processes in place as we move forward.
And if I can put in a plug for hiring a designer at this point in time, one thing I think that has helped my style evolve is not only expanding our realm on Instagram of designers that we follow with tons of different types of styles and everything, but we've also worked on Instagram with a lot of different brands, wallpaper brands, working with Hartville Hardware and all these different brands that we've worked with and everything. And then in the work that we've done for our clients, we're constantly sourcing decor, materials, wallpaper, flooring, tile, other kinds of finishes. And I think for me, that's been the thing that's helped me hone my style the most, and why people should hire a designer like us or a project is because we live and breathe types of flooring, types of tile, colors, paint colors, different finishes that you can do. We live and breathe that, and normal everyday people, right, like might come into Hartville Hardware because they're trying to figure out like what kind of tile they like or what colors they like or something like that. But we live and breathe that every day because that's what we do in our design business. So we are always looking at new materials and everything like that, but we have like an ever-growing understanding of all the different types of flooring, tile, finishes, wallpapers, all that kind of stuff that you can put into a house or a room. And that would be my plug for why you should hire a designer, is because, on a normal daily basis, just a normal person doesn't really have time to look through the whole universe of, wood or wood-like flooring, right? Just as one example, right? Whereas we understand all the different kinds of flooring, different brands, different colors, and everything like that. Right. And that's like our job. And it's overwhelming for just like people who are in the industry to try and even like figure out what would be the best kind of material for a project. So that would be my plug at this point in time for design services. And that's the one thing I've learned that is the best thing that we bring to clients is we can really quickly hone in on like even just what would be the best materials for your project and help narrow down the like literal millions of options that you would have. You know what I mean? Otherwise it's overwhelming. That's like the number one thing that people tell us is like, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed. There's too many options. I don't know what to choose. I'm just overwhelmed. But that's what we're here for.
Yeah. That's what my wife says, the same stuff. When we were getting ready to do the house, she's like, I don't even know where to start. So I was like, get some pictures together. I'll find everything.
Yeah.
And then I gave her, like 5 options. Here's your 5 options. And she was easy just because everything's gray and white in the house. To the point where I was like, you got to pick a different color besides gray or white. Everything can't be gray or white. So that's why we have a brown floor. Because she's like, she wanted some weathered gray thing. We're not doing more gray. We got to have something in there. And now the funny thing is we're doing all the build-ins and stuff, to add to it. And she's like, I think I'd really like some color. Maybe we should have some more brown things in here. I'm like, yeah, okay. Great.
That's funny.
You're meeting with clients. They're coming in organically. What part of the process, or maybe like, was there a project that was your favorite? Like what about it? I'm sure each of you has your own particular part that you like the best. What might that be? How about Aubrey? How about you first? Do you have a favorite project that you did, or do you have a favorite part of the process that you do?
Yeah, I think my favorite part of the process is putting the design together. Like I love to be able to visually see it. So we use some different programs as designers that allow us to put like flooring with a tile with paint color and then throwing in finishes. And I love just seeing the palette. I love seeing it come to life. I love interchanging different hardware finishes or different tile colors and just seeing it all come together. And it's fun too because I feel like I get paralyzed sometimes in my own home, but when it comes to deciding finishes for someone else or designs, I'm like, yeah, like throw this together, we're done. Like, and that's really fun for me to be able to do that. And just sourcing, I love sourcing items. So, we might have a client come in and need lighting for their kitchen or even just furniture for living room. And it's really fun just being able to source items. It's like shopping, but
that's what I was going to say. It's like shopping, but using somebody else's money.
And also just, helping someone, it's
Yeah.
great because we have that eye and, someone might be paralyzed with, I just don't know what chair to get in my living room. So it's fun to be able to kind of use our knowledge. And as time has gone on, we've really developed, like, I would say just a great kind of portfolio of different furniture pieces and tiles and flooring and paints that really just work. So we know what products are good. We know what products that have good reviews. We know which products to recommend to our clients. So it's just fun to be able to use that expertise, I think, and just source those items for clients and really just kind of put that design together.
Okay.
I love that aspect of it.
Okay. So you're, from that creative standpoint of doing all that, putting the design together and then kind of making it happen with buying the stuff, that's what you enjoy doing the most.
Yeah.
How about you, Laura?
Yeah, I'll go on answer the question of my favorite project so far, which is probably going to be Aubrey's favorite project too. But we had a client who brought us in after we had done some things in their upstairs area. They brought us in to completely redo their basement area. And they had this particular area of the basement where the previous owners had these like super deep glass lit shelves. It was like an area that was like literally 13 feet wide and went up to the soffit, and it was these glass lit shelves that held thousands of precious moments figurines. Okay? It was so wild. And the client was great because they 100% trusted our design, and we worked with the carpenter that we like to work with, and we sketched out with him one day basically these amazing, beautiful built-ins. And he ripped out all those glass shelves, basically built it to a smaller depth. And then we had these gorgeous cabinets and cabinetry in that area, these built-ins that housed storage for them, and their bar area and everything. And then, we redid the rest of the basement with, flooring that we liked. What they pretty much 100% trusted what, our design was for that project. And so that was really neat.
That sounds pretty wild. That's a lot of precious moments.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
them.
So like the way my mind works is I would have seen that and been like, hey, we can just line this up with like football paraphernalia and, bourbon stuff. And that'd be a cool man cave. But so when you're doing these things, you do part of the renovation too sometimes, right?
Well,
I've seen videos you guys with tools and cutting stuff and redoing things, and somebody did a shower. I remember seeing that one.
yeah.
You'll probably see more of on our personal projects at home. Like, okay, Laura won't say anything, but she does absolutely everything. She built her office, her kitchen from scratch. She's tiled. She does everything.
Yeah, the kitchen turned out awesome.
That's all Laura. That's what you're seeing. For our clients, we actually did, and I don't know if we would do it again, but there was one client in the very beginning that wanted box molding in her kitchen. So Laura's out there with the saw cutting
box molding,
out in the garage, and we're in there putting that up, and it turned out great. It was beautiful, but I think that's a service that might be a little over and beyond what we would do now.
Okay. That's one of those things that's the maturity of going through it.
Right.
Because when you start out, you're like,
you say yes
I'll
to
do
everything.
anything.
Right. Yeah.
I'll do anything just so I can get my name out there. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because there's stuff that I did at the beginning. There's no way. I just walk away from people when they start saying that stuff.
Yeah. And the client honestly wouldn't have really probably they had already done actually a renovation in their kitchen and living room, and we were helping them style it, and they just happened to have this like blank wall where you couldn't really do much with it, but it needed some texture and everything, but they had already spent all their budget, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we were able to come in, and it was early enough, right, in our business that we were willing to do some carpentry, in their house. And I did that while Aubrey styled the living room. But yeah, it definitely shows a maturity in our business, and we've definitely been working on building out our network, like you built the legs for my kitchen island and stuff. So Ben has been awesome, but also like building out our network of contractors that we like to use.
People that you can trust.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And that's also where Instagram has come in handy, where we've gotten recommendations for other designers, like kind of up in the Cleveland area, like who would you use to do a built-in linen cabinet, in a bathroom or whatever. And they've been so open and sharing with us, but we definitely have built out our list of people that we like and trust. And so, the type of clients it also shows a maturity in the type of clients too, right? There's I think really this year, and we're really working on like that ideal client type, which I know you and I had talked about when we saw each other last.
Yeah. Well, that's an important step in the maturation of a small business, is admitting what you don't want to do, or what you necessarily don't do well personally yourself, and finding somebody that does do it well. I think that's one of the things my dad talked about when I interviewed him last time, was surrounding yourself with people you can trust that do a good job, that are knowledgeable of what their part of the job that you need them to do is. And that's what it really comes down to. And having a contractor, for instance, that you can trust, it's going to make your vision a reality, because they're an extension of you. And if they fall short for your client, then you fall short for your client. And that's super, super important, to have somebody that you trust. So I definitely understand that for sure. That's something I'm struggling with, trying to find somebody that I'm going to be able to trust to do the same thing I do when it comes to hiring somebody. I was wondering, you talked about when you first started out, you took 6 months to kind of get everything ready, and you really laid everything out. And you talked about your name, picking out your name, Love Living Here. What is the origin of that? Where did that come from, the name?
I think that was something that I randomly came up with one day. And that's the great thing about Aubrey is she's like totally on board with like sometimes my wacky ideas about things.
Yeah.
And just goes along with it. And we mulled it over, I think, for a little while. We had like kind of a short list, but I also liked that you could abbreviate it like LLH,
Yeah.
But also to me, it was meaningful because that's what we want to help people do is love living where they are right now. Like you don't have to have $1 million to buy a mansion to love where you're at in your life right now, whether it's your starter home or your second home or your forever home. And that's really what we want to do. And I think that was initially the angle that we had wanted for our Instagram account was showing people how we lived. We bought these super dated houses that didn't have basically anything that we liked in them.
Yeah.
And showing people how you can transform it into something that you like, but here and now, not later in the most amazing house you could ever buy, but how to love where you live now.
That makes sense. So you bought homes with good bones, as they call it.
Yeah.
On TV. But hearing you describe what is meant by the name Love Living Here, as far as you love living in your house, I always interpret it as love is living in your home and you guys find it with your design. That's the way, when I read it, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. There's love in the house and you're helping them find the love that's living in the house.
I love that angle.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
So that's the way I always looked at it. And I'm like, that's kind of a cool way of looking at it. So I guess from my perspective, but that's cool how you came up with that. So you started in 2020. We're in 2024 now. What is your vision for Love Living Here over the course of the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think as far as our business, we just want to hone in on that ideal client. Like I had mentioned earlier, it's sometimes hard working with clients that just aren't able to hand the reins over. And that's fine. We want to have a partnership with our clients. We want to make sure that what we're sourcing and picking for them and the designs that we're creating for them are things that they love, because it is their home after all. But I think we want to move into the client that really gives up all control and just really trusts us, because I think we want to do bigger projects. We want to have, the reins from the start to finish. And I think, like we were saying too, that comes along with maturity, just saying no to certain clients where it just might not necessarily be worth our time to work with them, because we might not be able to help them at where they are and their ability to give control, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect
So I
sense.
think just being able to say no to perfectly good clients, but really just not maybe that ideal client that we want to hone in on.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and we've actually, I think this too is in the process of business maturity. We've come across some client that we thought were going to be like, this is going to be amazing. Like, we can really put our stamp on this project and help them because they're so overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. And this is really going to be it for us. And like, unfortunately, last year, like, one of those just never panned out. And it was a real bummer. Like, we still talk about it today. Like, that project would have been so amazing, but it's okay, right? Because we're still, as we're growing, looking for that specific type of client and honing in on, like you had said before, what projects you should say no to and what ones, are a definite yes. And so I think we're always looking to refine that. And I think we're at a point in time right now where, the projects that we have active right now are certainly keeping us busy in the time that we devote to our business as well as our Instagram. And so I think, are at a point where we can have a little more discretion. Like, we recently said no to a project that, it was out of the area, but they wanted us to travel to them. But it was just kind of a small enough project that it really wasn't going to be worth our time or even probably their money to spend on the project, because
Gotcha.
another thing that we've really learned and worked on too is like our fees. Like, we have to be willing to go out there and know what we're worth and then actually charge that, because I think you probably know this too. When you're a small business, there's this almost like this, I feel like there's a pressure to like give discounts or like charge a super cheap rate because like you want people to use you, or you want to land a certain client or something like that. But really, I think the way to get the ideal client that you want is we're learning that we have to price our services accordingly.
Appropriately.
Yeah.
Well, I think the pressure is there to do that because there are so many other small businesses out there almost giving the stuff away for free to get their name out there. I know, especially in the carpentry world, I'm competing against retirees who are just doing it for fun. Mm-hmm. And they will literally lose money on a job just to say that they did it. And that's one of the biggest things that I've come up against through the last 10 years now is just I'm competing with people who don't care if they make money. And that's the other thing that I've, like you just said, there's this desire to give discounts because you have such a personal connection with your clients. You feel like you've gained a friend at the end of it. And then they're like, well, we're buddies, we're friends. You're not going to charge me the full amount, are you? And you're kind of like, well, my margin's 10%. So yeah, I kind of have to charge you full price. Because then I just did it for free if I don't. But the one other question I want to ask you is, someone is listening to the podcast. The whole idea behind the podcast is to inspire people who are considering going out and doing a business to do it, but to do it with good information. If you had to give somebody one piece of advice before they started a job, whatever, or not a job, but a business, whatever it might be, what would that be? What would be that one piece of advice?
I'll go first and then I'll let you go, Aubrey. I think, I know we talked a lot about like really doing your research and having things in place and starting well, I would say, but you really can't let that hinder you. Because at some point in time, you have to just start.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. Like, you're never going to have all your ducks in a row, and you basically have to have the expectation that there's going to be a lot of learning as you go. So get the basics in place. Make sure that you're solid on things that you need to be solid on to start, but then just go out there and do it and understand that over time, it's going to evolve into other things but in a good way too. Like for us, it's evolved into things that we just never even pictured happening in the first place. But so at some point in time, you have to just start.
I got you. It almost sounds like the advice I give somebody about becoming a parent.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You can plan all you want, but you kind of just got to do it. And when you're doing it, boy, it's going to change from what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Aubrey? What's the one piece of advice?
I would say, okay, say you take that leap and you're in it. I would say keep it fun. There's always going to be parts of your job, your business that you don't like. Like I know both of us don't really enjoy invoicing and doing all the numbers and crunching all that. There's always going to be parts of a job that are just not your favorite.
Yeah.
But I think if you are venturing into something that truly you have passion behind and something that you love, something that you're good at, that you enjoy, keep it that way. Don't let it get to a point where it's like a burden or it's something that feels just feels like it's not fun or painful anymore.
It's
like
just
keep
another
it fun.
job.
Remember that it's your passion.
Yeah.
Like remember that you embarked onto this because it's something that you're good at and it's something that you enjoy, and keep it that way. And I think we've done a good job of doing that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, because some people still ask me, they're like, do you still love what you're doing? You still love doing the furniture and stuff? And I do. It's the other stuff that I don't enjoy. Like you said, the invoicing. You want to see me really angry? see me the day when I do my taxes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the day I'm super upset. Like, just stay away from me. And when I'm doing that, because then you actually see what you made. But last question. This is the final question. It's always the one everybody struggles with, and this is the one question I always ask. With what I do, I always got the earbuds in. I'm doing tons of music, listening to music nonstop. And so for me, music is a huge motivator. When you're designing or at a job or anything like that, do you have like your go-to songs that motivate you? Usually I say top 5, but that seems to be a struggle for some people. So let's say your favorite songs or artists to listen to when you really want to get focused and get work done. Do you have if you have a top 5, give them to me. If not, just your favorite artist to listen to when you really want to get work done.
That's easy for me. I'm Zach Bryan all day, every
All
day.
right.
He's my guy.
Zach
so
Bryan.
he gets me through. No, I love Zach Bryan. I pretty much you get me like a guy with a guitar, like any type of just like guitar music. That's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need my worship music. I need that like push because, everything I'm doing is for the Lord, and I just need that extra push when I am struggling. So worship music, Zach Bryan, I don't know. That's an eclectic mix, but that's my jam.
Hey, Zach Bryan, my wife keeps saying I need to take her to a Zach Bryan concert. They're expensive.
It's a good one. They're
Yeah.
pricey. Yeah.
I think he's playing the Shoe down in Ohio State,
Oh.
and it was like $400 a ticket or something. I looked at it. I was like, not doing it. It's just too much. Anyways, but Zach Bryan, yeah, my wife listens to that all the time. That's a good one. How about you, Laura?
Well, speaking of expensive concerts, my go-to, which might sound very cliche for a millennial mom with 3 kids, is Taylor Swift. Sorry. But I will qualify that if I really need to focus and pound something out,
Yeah.
I go completely old school, like Hinder, Three Doors Down, Evanescence, all those grunge type, angsty songs that I used to listen to in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. It's completely opposite. I realize that answer, but
No. That's cool.
I am who I am.
It makes me tear up a little bit that you call Hinder old school. But yeah.
That's what all the kids are saying though these days.
I guess.
If you listen to something in the 90s or the early 2000s, it's old.
That
you
hurts.
know?
That
We're
hurts
old.
right here.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, Taylor Swift has a following. Everybody has their thing, but I can't remember the last one of her songs I listened to. It might have been the whole song. I don't think I've listened to an entire Taylor Swift song.
I will say, I am not a bandwagon fan. She and I are almost the same age. And
Really?
she started to become popular when I was in high school, right? When she
Okay.
had her first album, and she was a country singer, right? And I'm a huge country fan too.
Yeah.
And so that's actually what originally drew me to her, was when she was a country singer. And obviously she has evolved since then. But that was my first love, was when she was country singer.
Your
Was it-
first dance was
at
to
our
a Taylor
wedding.
Swift
Yeah,
song.
we
Yeah.
huge Taylor Swift fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she her first couple albums.
Wasn't there a song she had Mean or something like that? As it was
Yeah,
called?
yeah.
I think that might have been the last one I listened to.
Yeah, when she was a country singer.
Yeah, when she was a country singer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Because, I have a fairly eclectic collection of music.
I've noticed from your Instagram.
Yeah, I listen to country music. People don't know that, but I do. But it's more heavy stuff. And when somebody says old school to me, I think of Black Sabbath,
Yeah.
and Van Halen and stuff like that. The old stuff, Aerosmith. But I remember when the Hinder songs came out.
Yep.
I was in college.
Didn't he have a really raspy, what's him?
Yeah.
What am I thinking of?
Hinder.
The
Really-
Lips of an Angel, probably.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's one
Yeah.
of the more,
I know.
that's one of their more famous ones.
Yeah.
The oh boy. Anywho, all right. So that's like the main question. Who was it? It was I'm drawing a blank. Jess, she struggled with it. Hers was like ABBA or something, wasn't it? She was like,
Oh,
it was like old disco music or something. I was just like, I could picture her dancing around the house
yeah.
to that stuff. But awesome. Well, that's like my wrap up question. So I really appreciate you both coming. I also, you did mention Aubrey, and it's worth mentioning. When you're getting into all this stuff, you got to have faith in yourself, and you got to have faith in God that He's got you on the right path. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a huge part of me, of what I do. A lot of people don't realize that because I am into the heavier music. They think that I don't have faith, but I do. Very strong faith that God's got you on the right path, and that He's not taking you down the wrong road. And that is number one most important thing to me on a daily basis, that I'm doing what God's plan for me is. So if somebody feels like that's what He's pulling them towards, they should embrace it. But then have good people around them as well, of course. But once again, want to say thanks for coming. Just to repeat it, how if anybody had listened to this and wants to reach out to you, they'd look up, what are your different handles on the different social medias?
So our Instagram handle is Love Living Here, and that's probably the best way to get a hold of us. Send us a DM, and we have our website, lovelivinghereco.com.
Yeah. And there's a contact us form on the website that a lot of people use. So you can, that focuses more on like what kind of services we provide. So that's a good place to start.
Perfect. And you're on TikTok, but you don't use it. Are you on YouTube?
No.
No? YouTube's confusing. I don't like YouTube.
There's only so many channels.
Only so many hours in the day.
Exactly. The okay, so Instagram's your most active. That's the best place to get hold of you, or the website. To remind everybody, my handle on Instagram is red_barn_home. I got it right both times today. And you can check me out at redbarnhomefurnishings.com. By the time this comes out, the e-commerce site's going to be up and operating, and be able to go on there and buy a lot of the different items that I have, from charcuterie boards to our standard wall art and tables, or order custom pieces. You can also find me on YouTube, even though I just made fun of it, and Facebook. But I'm most active on Instagram. There's also a contact me on the website, and I do answer the phone. So if somebody wants to go super old school and call, that's the way I prefer to do it. Once again, thank you so much for coming and talking. It's been awesome. We've burned off an hour and 15 minutes pretty quick. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for listening to episode 9 with Love Living Here with Aubrey and Laura. Thanks, you. Ben. God bless.
Thank you.